Hello, this is Robert M. Ross. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Pennsylvania. I'd like to welcome you back to my channel called The Common Sense Lifestyle. This is a channel where we take some psychological information and kind of distill it down into some useful chunks or useful bits of information that you can use to improve your own life. Before we get started, just like in all my videos, I want to add my little disclaimer. This is not a therapy session. Nothing in any of my videos can be construed to be mental health treatment. They are not designed to treat, diagnose, cure any kind of condition of any kind. These are purely for informational purposes. If you do need a therapist, there's two ways you can go about that. One is contact your insurance company and see who's in your network in your area, or you can use a service online like Psychology Today. They have a very good find a therapist function, and you can search by zip code, insurance that you have, conditions that you seek to treat, and they can tailor a search result to fit your input. So getting that out of the way, kind of reacting to an online story. We're gonna have story time today. But the title for today's video is Nice Doesn't Always Cut It. And that is actually a quote from the article that I'm responding to. The article is titled Breaking Up with Mr. Nice Guy, and the author's name is Lindsay Ellison. I'll leave a link down in the description. And I think a client brought this article to my attention. When I read it, it really made me think about what a lot of men in my office are going through and some of the assumptions they have about relationships that may not be accurate. Now, if you remember, did a video on this last year about default settings. That's what I call it. Some people in psychology will call it a schema or a frame or whatever. But default settings are what you were raised with, not only by your family of origin, mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandparents, but the wider culture. What does TV, movies, books, literature, magazines all teach you? Music in particular teach you. We'll have to edit that cough too. But here's an excerpt from this article. And yes, I'm going to read directly from the article because I think this is important to kind of digest. And you can go read the full thing. I'm not going to read all of it. But some chunks that I think are highly relevant. I once dated a really nice guy. He was funny. We had fun together. We had good chemistry. But something was off. It took me a while to pinpoint what it was, but I held on for far too long because really, I had no one else in my life, so why end a quote-unquote good thing? Has this happened to you? Were you in a relationship with someone, but you know he's just not the guy for you? This is actually a problem because if he isn't a jerk, it's actually harder to end it, right? Take a look at these and see if this is you and your nice guy. And here's some checkpoints here. You have fun together. He's a good father to your children. In quotations here or here in parentheses, or he isn't the dad, but the kids really like him. You have great sex, chemistry, or passion. Or maybe you don't have great sex, but he's such a nice guy. You keep seeing he's that for now guy, quote unquote. He offers companionship and fills those quiet, lonely days. Your friends like him, and you like his friends, and you are socially intertwined. Or maybe you're married to a nice guy, and divorcing him seems like the ultimate betrayal to him and your family. But if you feel in your gut he isn't right for you, you second guess yourself. He takes care of me, you think, or if we break up, I will miss him. No, those aren't good enough reasons to stay with someone. It's time to get honest with yourself. Ask yourself, what's truly missing here? Are you staying with them because it's safe? Do you think maybe you won't find anyone better? Yikes, if you answered yes, then you are selling yourself short. So let's unpack this a little bit, and there's some more to talk about from the article. But one of the checkpoints that jumped out at me, you keep saying that he is the for now guy. Guys out there, and some of you guys, before I get to that, some of you guys out there are going to think, oh man, he's going to go ripping these terrible women who dump nice guys. No, I'm not. I'm not going to go there at all. I'm not going to criticize anyone quoted in this article because there's some comments. The comments are just as illuminating as the article itself. I'm not going to go ripping on any of these people. I'm not going to say anything nasty about any of these people. These people are doing what they think is in their best interest. The problem is with the guys. Talking about default settings a couple minutes ago. One of the things that, one of the default settings that's incredibly destructive in my opinion, that a lot of guys, especially guys from my generation and older and just around, 10 years of my generation, a lot of those guys were raised with the nice guy thing. That if you're a good man, if you're there for her and you're kind to her and you listen to her and you do things with her and you're good to her kids or you're good to the kids that you have together, if you don't drink and you don't smoke and you don't beat her and you don't abuse her and you don't do anything bad, you're going to find a good woman and she's going to stay with you forever because she's going to value that in you. This article says a lot of the opposite. I'm not saying don't be a bad guy or be a bad guy. I'm not saying be a jerk. I'm not saying abuse people. I'm not saying be a drunk and wear a wife beater and do all the stereotypical abuser stuff. Not saying that a bit. Being nice is an end unto itself. I wish there were more nice people in the world. Things would be a lot better if there were. However, being nice and being a good man, as this article suggests, is not necessary or sufficient to have a successful relationship or marriage. It's not the it thing. Now, what is the it thing? That's a different story for probably a different video. And that's going to vary from person to person. But there's guys out there that they end up in my office and they're completely blown out of the water because they thought they did everything right. They were the good guy. They didn't do anything bad. They went out and worked. They brought home money. They took care of things. They were the good guy. They were the nice guy. And when she left, when she cheated, when she took him, the kids, and everything else, took all his money or the kids or whatever else, he's completely blown out of the water because his default settings were saying to him that he did the right thing. He did everything he was supposed to do. Why don't I have this successful relationship that I was promised? Let's dig into these default settings. Where does that come from? Well, what does almost every romantic comedy teach? The good guy wins in the end. The good guy sees that, or the gal sees that the bad guy isn't the person she wants, that she really wanted the good guy all along, and they go along and they live happily ever after. Unfortunately, most of us have seen that that does not actually translate into anything real in the real world. This article is just further confirmation of it. If you go through life thinking things that are false, you're going to be surprised when reality intrudes on those false beliefs. We call it cognitive dissonance. It's the difference between what you expect and what you get, as I like to put it. People get upset when, they feel wronged because they did everything that they were supposed to do and it wasn't good enough. It still wasn't good enough. And maybe for some people there is no good enough. I don't know. But let's get back to this article because I think there's some further things in here that are worthy of discussion. Here's some more from the author. And this is an excerpt later on in the article. I knew I deserved better. I knew I was better. Truthfully, I was stuck and I didn't want to be stuck with someone else who was stuck. Even though he was a really nice guy, a safe one, and someone who wouldn't cheat on or be mean to me. So ending it was really hard. I tried to get him to end it and he never would. It was like giving up good chocolate sundae on a hot summer day. But the more I stuck it out, the more it made me feel really yucky. I started to resent him because he reflected a person who I didn't want to be. I didn't want to get divorced and put my children through stress so I can just settle. All of that would have gone in vain. Don't let all of your accomplishments, your success, your children, and your dreams go in vain just to be someone just because he's nice. And again, it goes down to a few lines down where we get to the title of this video, nice doesn't always cut it. And this is absolutely true. And again, I'm not going to say anything critical about these women. Now, let's move on to the comments because the comments are just as illuminating as the story itself or the article itself. And again, I would encourage you to go and read this for yourself. I think the last time I looked at the article and I printed it, there's about 115 messages, and probably the lion's share of them were women relating similar stories to the author. So here's just a couple. I just want you to see that. Here's one comment. I've currently dumped a really nice guy who changed my life through ups and downs. He was very supportive and always there when I needed him, though my gut made me feel uneasy. I've recently broke things off because I know he deserved someone who will give him 100% of themselves, and I felt I couldn't. Now, I spent the whole next day crying after he collected the rest of the things from my house, and I'm second guessing myself if I've made the right decision. I've never really had a no reason dumping before, and that's what makes it harder. I just hope he finds a nice girl and I'm able to heal and move on as well. Thanks for your words of wisdom. So, again, if I were to talk to this guy, the guy that just got dumped in this situation, in the comment, I would probably most likely be dealing with a guy that said, I was everything to her. I did everything I could. I was supportive. I was great. And then she just left me for no reason. This guy would be absolutely devastated because not only did his heart get broken, but everything that he was taught to do didn't work. It would be almost like part of his reality got shattered. And that's what it is for a lot of guys like that. And here's another comment. I think we all on here screwed up big time. I too broke up with a really great guy. He was thoughtful, supportive, and funny. I loved hanging out together. Our sex life was great and he was so attentive. Deep down, though, I felt that there was something quote-unquote missing. I loved him, but wasn't in love with him. I felt tortured and finally worked up the courage to break it off. I felt so guilty after. I wonder if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. But I knew it was the right thing to do. He ended up finding someone else not long after, which gave me a sense of relief in a way that affirmed that what I did was the best for both of us. Long story short, I met a new guy. The sparks were amazing. But when they finally faded after a year together, we both realized how completely incompatible we are for the long haul. He was on the selfish side and also emotionally abusive at times. He ended up dumping me. Maybe I just need to step back from it all. I've been ruminating that if our gut feelings and intuition are so amazing and true, there would be much fewer divorces and breakups in the world, right? I don't know what to trust anymore. I'm really numb at this point. My mind wanders back to the first guy I let slip away, and where would we be today if I had ignored my gut? So, guys, you have to realize that, we were taught this by every sappy love song, every romantic comedy, blah, blah, blah. Our aunts, our uncles, our grandparents all told us the same thing. If you're a good guy and you're a good provider and you're not an abusive jerk and you treat her good, that she's going to stay. Well, here's the problem. I frequently refer my male clients to read a book, No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. And you should check that book out yourself. It's an awesome, awesome book. Helps lots of men out there. But it helps guys with what Dr. Glover refers to as nice guy syndrome. And one day I'm just going to have to do a review of that book. But one of the things that Dr. Glover talks about is what are called covert contracts. A covert contract is a deal that you make with another human being, but the other human being isn't aware of the deal, completely unaware. So what does that mean? What does that lead us to? Well, what it leads us to is this. If you make a covert contract with someone, let's say that I'm going to be this good guy to you, and I'm going to treat you great, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm never going to abuse you, and I'm always going to listen to you, and I'm always going to hold you when you've had a bad day, blah, 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 blah. And in exchange for that, you're going to stay. You're going to love me. You're going to give me sex, attention, and all the things that I think I deserve back in this relationship. Well, the problem with that covert contract is not only is it based on faulty default settings, but it's also done kind of in a way that the woman isn't aware that that contract's in place. And these guys get really, really upset when that contract is broken because they were promised. They were promised by society. They were promised by the romantic comedies and the sappy love songs and their parents and their aunts and their uncles and their grandparents that this is the way the world worked. And when they find out that the world really doesn't work this way, they're very upset. They're hurt. They're heartbroken, of course. They just lost their relationship. And then they get angry because they were taught all these things and they did all the right stuff and then they were still wronged. What's wrong with this crazy world that when I did all the right things, I got kind of screwed? So, guys, you're going to have to start looking at your default settings when it comes to relationships. I've had a ton of guys in my office going through the exact same thing that's discussed in this article. And they are absolutely blown out of the water. They thought they were doing everything right. They thought they were doing the right thing. Being nice isn't good enough. It doesn't cut it, guys. And again, I'm not saying be a jerk. I'm not saying, do another thing. I want to come back to one topic, one thing from the first, and I got a little sidetracked back there. We were talking about the bullet points in the article. You keep saying that he's the for now guy, quote unquote, for now. Unfortunately, guys, there are women out there that will stay with you because you're nice, because you're safe, because you're predictable. She has no intention from the outset of staying permanently. You're just kind of like her orbiter until someone she really wants comes along. So, she'll keep you in her social circle. There may be a sexual connotation to the relationship. There may be all of this. But you're just a placeholder until the guy she really wants comes along. And there's a lot of women out there that think that. I treat women too, and women come to my office and talk about that. That they're dating a guy now, and the guy's really serious about her, but she's just with him to be with him because there's nothing else going on right now, so I might as well be with him. So, something to keep in the back of your noggin. I always tell guys to lead a fact-based reality. And what I mean by that is be realistic. In therapy, we talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, that what you think determines what you feel and what you do. And if what you think doesn't match reality, you're going to have problems. You're going to get blown out of the water like the guys in this article did. You're going to make faulty assumptions, and you're going to be really, really upset when those assumptions don't come to pass. So guys, study. Trust what your eyes tell you. Trust what you see. When you see women behaving in this way, it's not about hating women. It's not about ripping anybody in this article. It's recognizing that it isn't the women that are wrong necessarily. It's that what you taught isn't correct. It isn't rational. It doesn't match reality. And you need to adjust your thinking accordingly. And as I like to put it with a lot of the guys that I see in my office, the nice guy thing, the programming is very subtle. And it affects almost everything you do. It affects every way you look at the world around you. And again, don't be a jerk. Just be realistic. And realize that being a nice guy is a means into its means to itself, but it doesn't guarantee you relationship success. And no woman is obligated to give you a relationship, sex, or anything else just because you're nice to her. That's a decision she has to make. So, guys, I want to sum that up there. I'll just drop it off. Read the article. Leave some comments down in the description below if you feel the need. But as I always do with all of my videos, and I end it with a caution about suicide. If you're feeling suicidal, please use the suicide prevention hotline I'm going to leave down in the description below. If a loved one, a family member, a friend is expressing that to you, use the suicide prevention hotline down below. Suicide is almost always a long-term solution to a short-term problem. Things almost always get better. Whether it's a job loss, a bankruptcy, breakup because you were a nice guy, whatever, you can recover from this. Almost everything is recoverable. So don't take that step. Don't become another casualty. Too many people are committing suicide. Too many men in particular are ending their lives. Take a moment, use that hotline, get some help, get yourself back up on your feet again. In probably 5 years or more, you're going to be able to look back and say, that's the time when my life changed. So guys, go out there, be the best edition, version, whatever of you can possibly be. Make yourself better, improve yourself, learn. Use that mind of yours because you have a good one. And I'll see you at the next video. As always, hit the like, share, and the bell. Leave a comment if you feel the need. Always appreciated. Share this with guys that may be going through this because maybe this will be helpful to them. Otherwise, guys, have a great day.